I'm your host, Link the Boss.
And I'm your host, Blam the General.
Yeah, baby, what time is it?
It's time for 2 MCs in the Mic Podcast.
I said, what time is it?
It's time for 2 MCs in the Mic Podcast.
You the below, right? Underground where we are, right? If you keep it the buck and I keep it the buck, then we all gonna be alright. Cause we want the ball, right? The money, the bitches and all, right? The figures, the digits, the exquisite visits to all of the different shows, right?
I was still want more. Private jets to Caribbean shores. Girls in bikini, champagne grapes on my feed me. Smoking that lettuce for sure. Brr. Penthouse on the beach, champagne spilling hot tub where we reach.
You're in tune to the 2 MCs in the Mic Podcast with your host, Link the Boss, Blam the General.
We go out on the boat, we out at the lake, and she knew I was married. She knew about all the other girls, but this was the one I probably had more trust in. And she would, keep my drugs stashed or whatnot. And like I say, we out there at the lake, man. And I told her I was done, but I assured her that I was gonna take care of her. You good, you ain't gotta worry about shit. On the way back from the lake, I get a call from my other partner. He really congratulated me, like, we hanging out tonight, we popping bottles, whoop-de-whoop, nigga, you did it, it's over with, let's live. And the other guy that's in question, the one that turned informant, he was sitting in a spot. And while he was sitting in the spot, he out trying to holler at some bitches in front of the spot. And he's standing out there talking to the bitches through the window. A detective walk up on him, asked him what's going on. He's like, what you got? He took the detective in the apartment complex and served him in the apartment where you got a hole in the door. The clientele was never supposed to see who was serving him in the first place. But he allowed the man to break all fucking security, come up. As soon as the detective leaves, he come back with the squad, lay everybody down on the porch, take his ass to jail. And like I say, this motherfucker wasn't down there 15 minutes, man, before he told them where I live at, what I do, how I do it. So I'm on my way to make to deliver the work to him. And when I get there, it's a Friday night. My other partner kept telling me, you done, man, fuck that shit. If he ain't getting no money, that's on him. But me being who I am, I want to see him eat because he about to go back to Michigan to his family. Let him go back with some bread.
It's that boss life, that boss life. It's that boss life, that boss life. We live that boss life. Yeah. My enemies nigga, we gon' make it. They don't give it, we gon' take it. We stacking this money, no time to fake it. We working so hard to be the greatest. It's that boss life, that boss life. It's that boss life, that boss life. We live that boss life, yeah.
Every motherfucking thing he can about me. They apprehend me the same night. So I get locked up. I'm in the same holding tank with him and my doorman. And as I'm sitting there, I'm trying to, I done already came to the conclusion that, okay, maybe it's been a 6-month or longer investigation and they just done caught up with me. But my doorman, he was a crackhead, but he had a job working the door. And when he came to me, he was like, you've been here 15 minutes. They done already took your fingerprints. Your man's been here over 2 hours. They just now calling him out to take his fingerprints. So I'm like, so what you saying? He said, come on, if I got to tell you, then goddamn it, you don't need to know. And at that point, I started realizing that, damn, this might be the link that got me fucked up. But long story short, I bonded everybody out. I got out within the 72 hours. I bonded out. I bonded the doorman out. And he couldn't bond out because he gave an out-of-state address. They wanted property. So I'm running around the city trying to find somebody with property to put up for this cat. When I go see the attorney showed me the paperwork, tell me who told on me, how it all went down. And long story short, he ended up doing, in Indiana, they had a special going on, a 651. You plead guilty, they give you 6 years, suspend 5, you do 1 for your first time offense. Me, I was never looking for anything of that nature because I've always had either a violent crime or a serious crime. So long story short, I had a choice, man. Go to trial with a guy about to get on the stand and hand me over, or go on the fucking run. So me being me, I chose to go on the run. And I went on the run for 3 years, man. And I made the most money when I was on the motherfucking run, real talk. Because my whole life was based on survival. I had to play the game in full. You know, I went from state to various cities in different states, and I was playing the game 1000% because I know it wasn't no coming back at that point in time. So once again, I stacked a great deal of money at that point in time, and I had moved to Florida. So I'm living in Florida. I'm flying back from Florida to Michigan. And it was the year they had the Super Bowl was in Florida, and I was coming through the airport, and they had put them special cameras in, and they picked up on who the fuck I was, although I had alias ID. I had driver's license. I was part of financial institutions and everything under an alias name. So at that point in time, they identified me through the camera. They did the symmetry and all that old shit, the facial recognition. And when I returned, I spent my weekend in Florida with the family. But when I was getting ready to fly back to Michigan, the feds was waiting for me, or the marshals, the U.S. Marshals was waiting for me at the airport. They arrested me, extradited me back to Indiana. In the process of that 3-year time, he had already served his time, so they didn't really have nobody to really be a witness against me. So they offered me 18 months. I took the 18 months, I came back home, and I got right back to it. This time I thought I'd do it a little bit smarter, but I got right back to it. And I accumulated some more money, and I had a good life. But I was also looking for that transition, how to get up out the game all the way.
It's that boss life, that boss life. It's that boss life, that boss life. We live that boss life.
You know, once you've been in the game long enough, you get a feel for it. You know, you can leave your house in the morning, man, and you could feel whether it's gonna be a good day or a bad day. It's been times when I've actually been in traffic, and my senses will tell me the police is sitting up 2 or 3 blocks down the street. And sure enough, 2 or 3 blocks down the street there the police sit. It's just in the energy, man. Like I say, when you connect to what you're doing, you have a broader sense of everything that's going on around you. So my thing was, I always had a niche for being able to go to another city by myself. I would go in these cities where my spots was rolling in one city. I would go to a whole different city, and I may make it a weekend venture. But the first thing I would do, no matter what city I went to, is I would go downtown, and I would find which way was south, because I know south of all downtown there's a Martin Luther King Boulevard, and unfortunately that's where all the bullshit goes on around Martin Luther King Boulevard, whether it's in Louisville, whether it's in Ohio, no matter what state you go to. So I would go south of downtown until I found the first-hand car wash. I would pull up in a car wash because I was staying in something fly at all times. You know, coming from Detroit, every player know that your tools is your calling card, your clothes, your vehicle, most definitely. So I would pull up into these car washes, and I know I was gonna run into somebody who was into the same line of hustle I was in. And true enough, every time I would pull up, you get out, I make conversation about the cars, then I make conversation about where the club's at, where the women at. And then I would always meet a woman within the first 5 or 6 hours of being in the city. And they would be my conduit to the streets. I would take her around, we'd hit the mall, she'd show me around town, and I had a charming personality when it came to the ladies, so I never had a problem with securing a friend in a woman. And from that point, she would show me the city, show me the hood, and like you say, like you know, dope sells itself. As long as you got the best quality and quantity, we got the police rolling through, but if you got the best quality, it's gonna sell itself. I can remember I got into some trouble when I went to Columbus, Ohio, and the area was saturated with bloods. And me being from Detroit, I always wore blue, not because I was in the gang, but we always wore the blue Detroit fitted hats and things of that nature. So I went down there by myself first, and when I seen how the city was laid out, I found a house for rent in the inner city, and I came back to Detroit. I went back with seven of my guys. We moved in the house, and the moment I pulled up, the U-Haul pulled up, I had one of my uncles with me, and he told me, he's like, you see over there across the street, it was about 4 guys, and they all had on their red. He was like, you about to have some motherfucking problems. He said, you got 1 or 2 choices. Either you can go over there right now and let them know what it is, or we can all put this shit back on the truck, get the fuck up out of here. So I knew I couldn't go back to where I just came from because, like I said, I knew I was hot. So I went in the house, I grabbed a few bags of weed, and I went across the street, and I broke right into the circle of these guys. I'm like, what up, though? And they looking at me like, who the fuck is this? I said, look, dig this playboy, I ain't here for no problems, no drama. I'm just here to get some motherfucking money. I'm gonna burn the block down. Y'all can eat with me. We can get this money, and I'm out. The block is back yours. And I gave them some weed. This was like a peace offering. So when I gave them the weed, they looked at it, and they looking at me still kind of puzzled as to what was going on, but they watching me move my shit in the house. So next thing you know, about 7 hours later, I got cameras installed around the house. The front door, you can come and get anything from a nickel bag of weed to a pound. The side door, you can get all the E-pills you want. The back door, you can get the powder and the crack. So we had this house rolling, man. It was, you know what I'm saying, rocking probably about $7,000 to $10,000 a day. And eventually, the guys that I brought down there with me, they started messing with all the girls in the neighborhood, and that's where all your problems come in at. They fucking the little chicks, and they guys getting mad. They already hating because you down there getting money. You ain't from there. And every time they look for their woman, she over at our house. So, long story short, the police came and robbed us. I was out of town. I was in Florida at the time, but my lieutenant, he was there. He had just came back from here, Detroit, with a carload full of shit. And as soon as he got in the house, they ran up in there, they zip tied everybody, beat everybody up, took all the guns, all the money, all the drugs, and they gave us what they call futures. They wrote them out tickets, future indictments. So it woke me up to what was really going on in that little small ass town. And it wasn't really that small of a town. It was a pretty nice city, a nice sized city, but at the same time, everybody knew everybody. I got lost one day, and I was at a corner, and I rolled my window down, and at the time I had a white Cadillac, and I had the rims on it. It was like a one of a kind. And when I rolled my window down, I asked the guy, hey dog, where the nearest mall? I'm trying to find the mall. And he was like, hey, you remember that club you was at last night? He said, it's right around the corner from that club. Go straight down here. So from that point, I started realizing that the streets is not only talking, they watching. You know what I'm saying? So I made a decision at that point in time. It was time to get up out of there. And the final convincing was the night I went to the titty bar down there, me and my clique. As soon as we walked up to the door, the security guards, which was really police officers, when we got to the front door, they was like, "Oh, Detroit boys, y'all back. Y'all ain't learned y'all lesson yet." So the next morning, we packed up everything and left. And I got all my guys up out of there safe and without no problems. But I really started liking the city because on the outskirts, it offered a whole different culture. So I ended up getting a condo down there, and I stayed there for probably about 3 years without incident. I knew my way through the streets, and I was starting to touch on the different aspects of life. And in that time is when I started making my first strides at transition, turning my life around, because I got to that age where I know, you know what comes along with the game, and you can't play it forever. I have been blessed and fortunate enough to make it through all the trials and tribulations, and out of 30 years in the streets, man, I never got one scratch on me. Yeah, I did prison time. I had some mental and emotional scars, but nothing ever happened to me physically. So I got to be grateful for that. And it was at that point in time I started making my transition into a better, more progressive life. I started really looking at my future because I know this shit couldn't go on forever, and I knew it could end any day. So I'd already had some legal entanglements prior to that, which prevented me from going all the way white collar, blue collar, or just going straight and narrow. I couldn't really land a job because I had warrants in 2 or 3 different cities. So once again, I forged some paperwork, got me some new IDs, and I ended up getting a good job. And that was the beginning of my transition.
It's that boss life, that boss life. It's that boss life, that boss life. We live that boss life.